So I don't have the best lighting today. I'm still figuring out this whole doing live interviews at night thing. So I will just wait for a couple people to pull through. Oh my God, my eyes. Hi, Monga. So basically, guys, I'll just start so that no one is left waiting. First of all, thank you for watching, guys. This is my most favorite guest that I'll be interviewing today, MOONGA K, who I've had the delight of working with on my second social documentary. Hopefully, we'll be working again. And it's just been amazing to kind of see MOONGA grow and develop and become all that he is. And yeah, today we'll be really just discussing developing safe spaces within collaborations. I felt that MOONGA was amazing and has always been amazing in terms of collaborating. I'm speaking firsthand because I've worked with him, but also just looking at the way that he works with other people and how I feel his aura and his energy and his personality always shines through. He always has a way of like taking whatever collaboration and you can see like it has a special touch to it. And so hopefully today he'll be sharing with us how he does that. Hi Huizi, thank you so much for watching. So I'm just going to connect with MOONGA now, and then MOONGA will start and wait for a couple people to join. Let me see if this is working. I really hope my connection is not going to be terrible today. Let me continue so long. Oh my gosh. Hi, MOONGA.
What's up, Toela? How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I'm just dying because Huizi, let me grab them just for her. Just hold on. I joked with a friend of mine that today I would be debuting my glasses because I started wearing glasses and I can barely read comments. I'm going to be wearing my
Oh,
glasses today. I see a couple of people are joining us today. Hi Millicent, hi Sharif, hi Oni. I hope your connection is good. Can you hear me well?
yeah. Can you hear me?
Okay. I'm still getting
Cool,
used to looking at myself with these, so.
cool. You look
All
great.
right. Thank you. I'm still getting used to it. I'm like, like I flip my front camera and I'm like, who is that? Why is she looking at me weird? Anyways, hi MOONGA. Thank you so much for taking time out to do this interview. I know you had said you were busy last night, and I see you doing a lot of fantastic things and spending your time wisely and collaborating with a lot of big people, etc., etc.
Yeah,
It's been great
thank
to
you.
kind of see you grow and become all that you are. I'm so excited for your development, and hopefully today we'll be diving a bit into how you came to, how you've grown to and evolved to become all that you are.
Yeah,
And thank you, Millicent, how you've grown and developed and to become all that you are. And we'll also be looking at collaborations, which I think you've done successfully. I think you work with people well. And that's a
yeah,
trait that I feel has taken you very, very far. And yeah, I felt like you were the best person to kind of touch on that, as well as also giving your take on safe spaces in
yeah,
terms of creating collaborations that are healthy and, conducive for both parties.
yeah. Awesome. I'm excited.
All right, so first question, very
Yeah.
quickly, who is MOONGA? Tell us about yourself. Who is MOONGA away from being a recording artist, away from being an all-round creative, I feel?
Sorry, just say that for me again. Wi-Fi is a problem.
Is MOONGA? Who is MOONGA? Who do you think you are? What are your passions? What are your interests? And
Yeah,
how do you feel that they play a big role in your music?
yeah. So, I mean, it's a fairly broad question because I'm still discovering. I think we're all still on a journey of discovering who we truly are. But at the moment, I'm 22. I am an individual that is so passionate about music and about meeting and connecting with people and working with people um, on anything creative and putting that out there for people to just take in and for just continuous evolution. I love writing, writing my own music, writing for other people, writing for hopeful television or movies and stuff like that. Um, I'm also very passionate about activism. That's the number one thing besides music that I think is super important to me is being there for minorities and being an ally to those that are disenfranchised and those that are marginalized and those that people don't want to understand, and to just be able to make sure that there are safe spaces for people of color, queer people, people that go through mental health issues such as I do, and making sure that everyone is aware that they are loved and that they're cared for and that they mean something.
Right. Do you
Yeah,
think that your work is a manifestation of who you are? I like that you touched on how self-awareness plays a big role in who you are and
yeah.
you're constantly rediscovering yourself. Do you think your work is like a manifestation of who you are?
I think so. I mean, for example, with the shows that we do, we always make it a point to let everybody know that there is no room for judgment. There is no room for hatred here. There's no room for racism, homophobia, discrimination, sexism. Um, it's just spaces for you to be as free as you want to be. And I think that's the number one thing that I advocate for is that everyone should know that we are a no nonsense. Well, I'm a no nonsense person. If you're
Right.
gonna, if you're gonna, I guess, listen to my music or support me, I would hope that you support the social issues that I advocate against.
Right. I like that you touched on the activism part of it. I have a question actually as we
Yeah.
go on and as we commence that really just speaks to how your activism is. I feel it's so strong. I feel you use your influence well. I think everything you do is really stemmed from emotion, whether it's the emotional song single She, which I love. I jam it every day. In case you didn't know, I'm obsessed with it.
Which song is
To
it?
other songs, She.
Oh, she. Yay.
I'm like obsessed. Literally, it's like at the top of my recently my
Amazing.
the favorite jams, my playlist on my phone. To like other songs like light-hearted songs that you do. How do you think you kind of like dribble in between strong emotions in a way that's um I don't know what word could go well, but how do you think you go from how is it that you're so versatile in terms of the way you display your emotions through music?
I think firstly the number one thing is being able to use my platform as a black man to show that vulnerability is super important. I think being able to
Right.
go around women mostly who, especially for example, my mother, who's one of the strongest human beings out there, and has always taught me to just be in tune with my emotions, to a point, obviously, and to accept that as individuals we feel different things and we need to accept them. So that's what I think is most important when I go about writing my music. She came from a place where it was about my mom and about my sisters and about all the powerful women that I've met so far in my life. And being a feminist, I wanted to be able to, I guess, put out one of the first of many, I guess you would say a feminist anthem song to show that there are men out there because we're in this current wave of, um, you know, outing a lot of the male privilege that has been so prevalent in our society, and
Right.
a lot of it's women that do that. And so I guess being one of the few men that do that, I want to be able to just get out there and say, look, we appreciate you, we love you, we care for you, and put that in a song, and then talk about mental health in a bunch of other songs because I've had experience with depression and anxiety. I still go through anxiety, and a lot of the times I write about that. Um, so essentially, what I like to say about the songs that I write is they're songs that I wish someone had written for me when I was,
Right.
going through that. So I'm just looking at it from a
Mhm.
perspective where it's like there might be a young black boy or black girl or brown boy, any boy or girl that is going through a certain thing, and because of a lack of representation, I want to be able to change that and say that, look, I look like this, I speak like this, I dress like this, I think like this, and
Right,
it's
right,
very
right.
you can do it too. You're allowed to do it. You are free to do it. So that's the mindset that I go in when I tap into writing and creating the music that I put out.
Are there any kind of steps that you do beforehand to ensure that that atmosphere is created? Because I remember vividly, like when we had worked together. I remember, we were shooting at in Block 5, and I recall like we were shooting, and then you're like, play some music so I can, express myself better. And we played music, and it just like kickstarted everything. And
Yeah,
that's when we got like the golden shots, and I used the first one that we got from that moment on as like the main
yeah.
frame for the entire project. So, are there any steps that you do beforehand to ensure that you get into that space? Because I mean, let's be honest, you're human. Every day you go out into this world, it's very hard to, in my personal experience, to kind of protect that sensual place and that sensitive
Yeah.
place of, acting out of strong, pure intention. So how do you what do you do to make sure that everything you do is from that space? How do you protect that space?
I think for me, energy is super important, and I thrive off getting positive energy wherever I go. So, I mean, with music, for example, if I'm having a shoot or if I'm doing something creative, I love to have the atmosphere filled with I guess, for example, if it's like a moody shoot, we'll have like folky music playing in the background and indie music playing. Or if it's like, a fun shoot in daylight and stuff like that, I think energetic music is important because it just gets you feeling really great in that space that you're supposed to get work done. I mean, I'm able to
Right.
write in silence when I'm alone, but I think when I'm around people, which I love doing most of the time, I think to make sure that everybody is having this coherent atmosphere of like happiness and willing to work together, that's super important. So
Right.
energy is just a huge thing, and I think that motivates creativity. If everyone's feeling good and if everyone's feeling excited and inspired, then that's the only way that good shots could come out from a photo shoot, or good music could come out from a session, or a good film could come out from a whole filming session. Everyone has to be on the same page, and at the same time, it has to be organic. I've been in
Right.
certain situations, for example, studio sessions where it's just felt very forced,
Forced.
especially. And I'm open to collaborations. That's the number one thing that I think is super important as well. But you meet people that try to impose their ideas on you. Um, and there's a certain point where you can meet in the middle, and there's a certain point where someone's trying to change you, and you have to learn how to deal with that in an appropriate manner. So for me, I just kind of pull away. Like if I see that, I'll try, but if I see that I'm not getting inspired, or everyone around me isn't getting inspired, then there's no point. You just move on and find another point of good energy, good positive energy that'll help you work and develop from there.
Right. I just
Yeah.
another quick question as a follow-up to what
Go
you
for it.
just said. For
Yeah.
me, like you're speaking and I'm thinking like basically when you started out at first, you worked solo, and I mean obviously you've developed a band over time and you work with a lot more people. You have that partnership with Apple Music as well. So many big things, and you're working with so many big brands. So I mean, how do you protect who you are? Because I mean, there may be people who say, oh, Monga, we need, like, maybe you're in a studio session and you're working on a deadline, maybe, and
Yeah.
there's a time factor put to it where you have to deliver, and then you still have to maintain that consistency because we all know you to be authentic and to produce authentic
Yeah.
work. And
Yeah.
how do you balance just in terms of like working with big brands where there's actually a lot at stake, and you must be able to put out what we all know you, or to be what we all know you to be.
Mm. So I think like I don't know. I think I'm very blessed in the sense where the people that I've met so far that are
Right.
interested in getting to know who I am and what I'm about are very respectful of that. There's certain things that
Mm.
I will not do, and there's certain things that I will not advocate for. Um, for example, I love to do my research on any brand or any thing that or any person that I'm about to work
Right.
with, because I think you need to be very careful in terms of associating nowadays. And it's super
Totally.
important to remember that whatever you do, it has to correlate with your brand or whatever you're trying to put out there. So in the partnerships that I've had, everyone's been very respectful of the fact that, look, I'm very anti-discrimination, anti-racism, anti-sexism, all that stuff. And um, people respect that. And I think that's been a really good part of the journey where it's just I just tell people like it is, honestly. And sometimes it's a
Right.
little aggressive and sometimes people get it and they're like, cool, I dig this guy, like he's pretty real. Because
Right.
I've come from a place when I was growing up and slowly getting into the music thing. I would be very submissive because I was young and because a lot of people would be like, oh, he's a kid,
Yeah.
he much, and that's not good at
Mm,
all. Because I'm looking at young people now, kids that are the age that I used to be when I started getting into music, and they are so smart and so mature and so, I mean, look at you. You're so in tune with what you're doing, and you're so young. Had I been, more brave in my honesty back then, I think, things would have gotten much better. Not to say that they aren't, but I think this misunderstanding and misrepresentation of young people to think that no, young people are just young and you know they don't think about things. They're very nonchalant. They're very immature. Is a wrong
right.
mindset because if we're
Right.
continuously going to people are the leaders of tomorrow, then let's give them the platform to learn how to be leaders today. So
Right.
that's just basically the mindset that I go through. So for me, in the very short career I've had so far, um, the people I've met, I've connected with instantly, and they respect the things that I want to put out, and the fact that I'm also just still learning. I think that's the number one thing is I always remind myself that I will never get to a point where I fully know everything, and that's I think the mindset that
True.
everyone should have. We are continuously going to learn
Totally
until the day.
agree.
And so we
Yes.
should stay complacent. I think complacency would just ruin us.
Mm, mm, yeah, totally. Uh, Again, I like that you spoke about self-awareness because I think the reason why you somewhat become you kind of attract people that are supportive of who you are and all of that is because it's a journey that you've been doing since the beginning. This honesty, this raw, authentic energy, and just who you are as a person. That's not something that's hidden behind a brand. That's something that you are, and your brand just had to kind of incorporate that into its mission. So I like that you touched on that because a lot of people also, you had spoken about representation in brands and, how you do your research, which I think is very important. A lot of us don't do that. And a lot
Mm,
of us take it for granted, like, oh, this big brand. But it's like a lot of brands ride these waves because they're trying to act social or culturally conscious when they're not. And man, it pisses me off so badly. So I'm glad that, you finally brought that up because it's very important to make sure that they're not just trying to use you to push their own agendas and their own sales. And,
exactly.
people have a lot of respect for you because of who you are, and you never want to kind of compromise that and compromise their loyalty just because, you're trying to look important because you're
Exactly.
associating and rubbing shoulders with certain brands. So it's an issue of figuring out exactly what it is that's important to you and for you, self-discovery is a major kind of principle that
Yeah.
you kind of incorporate in your day-to-day activities. And I feel like I said that that's what brings forth or kind of attracts you to the right people. Now, speaking on developing a brand, not a brand, a band, and kind of forming your band. I know earlier this year, I think you had made a post about how you had formed a band. Just confirm
Sorry, say that again.
how you had formed a band, a musical band.
Yes, yes, I've got a band now. It's been a
Right. So
year.
after years of right, it's been a year. That's great. So after like a long time of writing solo and doing a couple things with different people, when you decided to finally make that step to working with a band and committing to what will be a long-term collaboration with phenomenal, brilliant minds, what kind of
Mm.
criteria were you looking for from these people? Obviously, talent is plays a major factor, but apart from that, they're these talented individuals. But what is it about each and every one of them that kind of drew you closer to um picking them to be in your band?
So the number one thing was just finding people that were, okay with wanting to grow together. It's a different thing when, I guess, in every creative industry, when you immediately start working with, I guess, professionals or people who have so much more experience, because at the same time, uh, everyone's cool with it for a little bit, and then the professionals obviously have their expectations and their goals. And if you're still growing and they're like way elevated, then it's a bit difficult to try and come together. So I met beautiful individuals over Facebook, through friends of friends, and connecting, people that were, they liked the music. That was the number one thing. If you like the music, cool. That's the first step. We can get into it. And if you are
Right.
willing to see that this is a long-term thing and not a short-term thing, because it's so easy to get caught up in hype. You mentioned that before, of people just, associating with big names and big brands just because of, for the clout, I guess. And that's not what
Right,
I
right.
needed, and that's not what I continuously need. For me, it was just to meet individuals that were willing to, go through some really bad moments of, let's say empty shows, and then go from that to bigger shows and
Mhm.
continuously evolving together. And I've been so blessed to find not only incredibly talented musicians who have honor degrees in music, but funny, eccentric, lighthearted people that, relate to me, even on a personal level, not only on a musical level.
Right.
So growth is the number one thing that I would say everyone search for before getting into a partnership. You need to be able to know that whoever you're going to start doing business with, I guess, is willing to go through the bad and the good. Because it's always so easy to just be consumed by the positive parts and say that, like, you want to stay in that lane forever. But realistically, it's never completely good.
Totally. I agree with that.
Yeah.
I like that you were able to create, earlier on this week, I was talking about finding your creative tribe, just the steps
Yeah.
that I have personally taken to finding a creative tribe. Hello? Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, no, I
Oh, right.
missed that.
Okay, no, I was saying, basically what I was saying was I like
Yeah.
that you touched on, other kind of parts or things that you considered when partnering with these people long term, with these amazing, brilliant, talented individuals. Because a lot of people only, and I guess when you start out, that's what you want. You kind of just want to work with the best of the best because they're the best of the best. But then, as you grow, you begin to fine tune and you're like, okay, you're good, but you kind of need these qualities if you want to ride with me, and this is what I expect from you, and this is what you should expect from me. And this is basically you set the tone for how your working relationship will be with them. And obviously that then
Yeah.
transcends into your emotional relationship and connection with them, which, as you've said, is an essential part of your creative process for your music or for anything else that you do.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a very interesting point.
Thank you.
I kind of wanted to touch on something I really, 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 really admire about you is that, as I'd said earlier, you're very versatile within the arts and creative industry. From being a part-time photographer, I think a lot of times, I personally feel like you should also add creative directing to what you do, because I think you
Hmm.
direct a lot of what, your personal projects. I see
Yeah.
that very strongly. So I like that I see, a certain kind of level of, there's a certain consistency visually, even in the way your
Yeah.
work looks. There's a certain theme that's maintained. How has that been like kind of growing and developing and getting to a point where you have even the skills to kind of have more control over your creative process?
I think, for me, it's just, I guess I've always had these wacky, weird ideas, not only with music, but with, like, I'm obsessed with visuals, I'm obsessed with photos, I'm obsessed with videos. And obviously it comes from, inspiration from musicians and films that I've seen growing up. And so I try to put that in whatever I do. Um, and the number one thing is collaboration is key. Um, Throughout my journey in Joburg, and SA as a whole, I've met very interesting individuals in the arts industry, in the film industry and dance and everything. And I've taken little bits and, parts of whatever they do and whatever, like, they can, I guess, give me, and put it all in one little ball and continue to just create something from that. So it's it's cool to be vocal about the ideas that I have and then talk to people that understand it to a point, and then they'll be like, okay, cool, this won't work out like this and it might work out like this, and being able to break it down until it's feasible, because there's a lot of compromise that I've had to do throughout,
Right.
ideas, compromising financially, compromising visually, compromising with individuals, because it's never easy. It's never easy getting something done, especially when you're doing it independently, because I'm not signed. I, have help along the way, but at the end of the day, it's up to me as the individual to make it happen, and that's what I think as a creative director, I guess I would hope to be for a bunch of other stuff in the future, is important, is to be
Mm,
able to see, again, the long-term part of it. You need to be able to see, how it's going to work in different ways. So yeah,
right.
that's yeah, just reflecting on that. It's a really interesting ride to be able to just work on different ideas, not only for my own projects, because I love working with other people. I love photographing other people when I have the time, I guess. And I just also
Mm,
love, I have friends, I guess a lot of my friends are in the creative industry, so I love going out to support them at like model shoots or their own shows, or um, whatever happens, and then just take little bits and stuff from that. Even like music festivals, that's like number one like inspiration zone, is going to music festivals and seeing local and international artists do their things, and then take the knowledge from that and then elevate from there.
right. Speaking of musical festivals and all of that, I mean, we've just been discussing safe spaces from, I feel, a more kind of a smaller space in terms of being within yourself and within your band and all of that. But when it comes to now sharing or having to be safe when you're going on these large platforms and sharing your music, I always feel like once you go on stage, you just own it. Like that's like the best way I feel I can describe any performance I've seen of yours. You literally own it. Like the stage is yours. Like it's properly yours, made for you. So how do you kind of create that, especially with an audience of people you barely know? You've not had the chance to maybe make a formal introduction to them. You've not had the chance to, get to know them or understand what their likes or dislikes are. So how do you kind of create a safe space within those that split second when you go on a stage you're not that familiar with a large platform with a large
Yeah.
audience?
Yeah. So it's I guess I'm so anxious most of the time, and anxiety ruins me a lot of the time, and sometimes I spend my time crying either before and after a show because I'm really, really scared. Um, but I use that to my advantage in the sense where I use my vulnerability as a statement to say that, look, I
Mhm.
am strange and weird, and for the next hour, I'm gonna be your guy, and I'm going to just, make a fool of myself and have the most fun here, and you should do that as well, so that we can, work it out together and be best friends in whatever way possible. So that's what I think is the safe space thing. Because I mean, I think about it from my own point of view, is like when I go to shows, I want to be able to not only connect with the musician performing, but to be able to know that my quirkiness or my weirdness is accepted. And so that's what I try to put out in the shows as well, is just be as much of me as possible as I would be in like a conversation with my best friends. If I
Right.
guess the audience feels like they're making a new friend, I think that's how people feel comfortable. That's I guess how I approach things, is make people feel like they're about to make a new best friend.
I think that's so sweet. How many performers kind of take that and kind of a lot of performers would want to create this weird boundary between, them and, the audience, and kind of create this, I don't know, kind of be unapproachable. I don't know what they kind of get or benefit from that. But I like that your work is very centered on establishing emotional connections. I
Yeah.
feel it's literally what fuels your creative process. It's what fuels your calling. It's what fuels every part of you. And yeah, I think that's very interesting to kind of want to establish that kind of emotional connection, and really not even just basically doing it from a place where you're not afraid of depth with people. You're not afraid of deep connections. You're not afraid to be vulnerable. And I mean, even when I reflect on like the Man Up documentary, I remember you had written a post about your journey in doing that. How have you, as a man, what fostered you becoming more and more vulnerable? What facilitated that journey for you and made it simpler?
I think I realized at one point in high school that I wasn't really being me, and I was spending most of my high school life trying to seek validation from a lot of my male peers and female peers. I mean, literally the other day, I got a message from someone I knew back in high school, and you know how Facebook has all your past messages and stuff like that. And so it was this
Oh,
message
right.
from like 2011 of me talking about how many girls I made out with at a party I actually never even went to. And I felt so ashamed
Ah,
of myself. And I was looking back and I went back into that state of mind and I realized that it was so toxic because
mm,
this mindset of like you have to, have copious amounts of sex with, a lot of attractive women and be violent and aggressive and rude to your mom and, in all those ways it somehow impresses people and impresses guys. And I was like, no, that isn't for me. I personally just looking at the fact that I was being raised by such a powerful black woman and surrounded by my twin sister and my little sister and my mom's colleagues and stuff like that. I just looked at it from like a future perspective and thought, where am I going to go with being a toxic male? How am I going to achieve it? How am I going to better my mental health issues if I'm always focused on trying to impress someone with the
right,
fact
right.
you strong or the fact that I could be wealthy or the fact that I could, be hypersexual. I just didn't see that as, an interesting thing. It didn't seem like it was me. It just seemed like it was just regressive. And I felt that at that point, I think I was like 15. At that point, I was like, look, I may be emotional because I
Wow.
was very emotional when I was younger, but I was like, I'd rather be emotional than, cause trauma for other people because I was going through
Mm,
that trauma as well. And I think hypermasculinity will only take males so far. I think we need to get to a point to realize that that whole concept of boys don't cry or, you know, emotions are gay, which is incredibly stupid and very,
yeah.
very doesn't make sense to me. It's just, I think that's really sad and disappointing. And at the end of the day, I don't think that defines what being a man is. There's so many ways to define masculinity, and how I approach it is to just redefine it in multiple ways. Sensitivity, fashion, I guess, vulnerability in the music and everything. Those are productive ways that we can, you know, dismantle these very problematic theories of masculinity and at the same time recognizing our male privilege and helping women of all different races, of all backgrounds in the world. Because that's the number one thing that I want to do is to make sure that we, well, me as a man, am making sure that, I use my privilege, my male privilege, to better society because it's there and it's
Right.
prevalent. We need to use that to just change this concept of violence in a sense, I guess.
Totally. I like that you're talking about how masculinity is destructive for men because a lot of people assume that, it has nothing to do, like it doesn't affect the lives of boys and men. Like it's just
Yeah,
women on the other end of, as being a victim, it's just women. And I mean, one might argue that women do have it rough, etc. I mean, that's a conversation we could go on and on about. But I think it's very important to kind of stress that I just want to let me give a quick shout out to the people that are commenting. I know someone earlier at Tess Landman had given a comment saying, Monga is one of the most genuine and kind individuals that I know. I agree with her. You're
oh,
also um,
thank
I agree 100% with her. I'm sure a lot of people do. And then at Simply Huitze, who is a friend of mine who was very excited for this interview, says, Thank you for being emotionally honest with us, Monga. We need men who are comfortable with feeling and owning their truths, even the dark
yeah,
truths. I like that she said even the dark truths because sometimes we are so quick to own some truths and just other truths are like, oh no. So I like
yeah,
that she said that. I wanted to
yeah,
touch on something. Earlier on, you had told me that you are a student you're double majoring in sociology and journalism, which I find amazing because I'm obsessed with sociology. But I
amazing.
want to understand. I'm like so excited. You have no idea. I'm gonna like up you a bunch of questions after this. But I really just want to understand, do you think how has that kind of helped you develop your social activism and even just that doubling sociology with journalism means you have a certain understanding and I guess we see it very clearly in the way you conduct or carry yourself in terms of how that or social issues or anything socially related kind of relays back to media and projections and
Yeah,
representation, etc.
yeah.
So just take me
Yeah.
through that really quickly. How has that been studying sociology?
Well, it's exactly that. Using the journalism for, the writing that I continuously do, and then sociology for the social justice issues. Um, because I think with sociology, it was so backstory behind that. My original major was criminology because for the longest time I wanted to do investigative journalism, and then I got to first year and I did crim, and sociology was a minor, and I ended up really doing badly in crim. I just didn't. I wasn't as interested as I thought I would be, and I ended up getting like a 95 in sociology. So I was like, oh wow, this is interesting. I didn't even like work for it. Sociology was just a breeze for me because every discussion that we had in class, I was like, holy crap, I'm so into this. This is me. This is what I want to discuss. This is what I want to debate about. And sociology made me more academically aware of, for
Right,
example, I was always aware of feminism, but I wasn't aware of the different subgenres of feminism, standpoint feminism, liberal feminism, all those different types of feminism, for example, and the theories as well. I never knew about those until I got into sociology. So it made things very clearer for me in understanding how individuals interact with each other in society, because that's the number one thing I've always been passionate about is people and, excuse me, understanding why we do what we do, I guess, to a point, because theory can only tell you so much. And I
right,
just love sociology in the sense where it's like, I'm so passionate about social justice, and to have an academic background to fall upon that and say that, look, I know what I'm speaking about. I know where I'm coming from because of, my predecessors in the sociology sense. It,
right.
it it's incredible to just be able to learn that. And with the class discussions, it's also incredible to be able to hear differing opinions, and
Mm,
not have one person
sure.
lead the discussion, because that's how it works at my university. Is just it's student led, and as much as there's content to fall back on sociology, there's nothing like a wrong answer. It's how you justify it. Obviously there's your
Mm,
theoretical you have to follow, but at the end of the day, sociology is this continuous process of understanding how humans evolve and how humans associate with each other in society. So I love being able to learn that, and I love that, like, besides having a passion for music, I have a passion for this and a passion for journalism, and at the same time I can get a degree in that, and I can eventually do my master's in these things. So
Right.
yeah, and what I try to do is try to put, I guess, sociology with my music and say that, look, um, there's nothing different about who I am in my music and in my academia, because that was
Mm,
the disconnect
yeah.
I felt in high school. I guess I didn't like that high school just felt like we were in a totalitarian, government kind of thing. It just felt like we
I
had to all
relate
learn
so strongly. Yeah.
all these subjects, and um, I just I wasn't into it, and I was failing high school dismally. So it felt freaking fantastic to just get into my majors and know that I'm killing it, and know that I'm into it, and know that like I'm passionate about it at
Yeah.
the same. And I think that's what a lot of people should do with their studies as well, as be able to study what you
Totally.
love.
That's so exciting. I like,
Yeah,
earlier on you had spoken about academic awareness. I think even if you're not studying sociology, I think just in general, it should be our responsibility as literally members of society and culture to
yeah,
kind of dedicate time to learning more about the issues that or the systems that we're currently up against and the systems
yeah.
that disadvantage us and not just us and other people as well. So there's empathy involved in that. So yeah, I really like that, that like you said, you have a passion for sociology, journalism, and writing, obviously, and then music, which is also allowed because some people always say you should have one passion. I just like I've recently also gone into like social activism and I didn't plan it. And people be like, have you stopped photography? And I'm like, why would you think that? Why would you think that? But it's crazy that people, have this idea, this linear kind of perspective, like you must be one thing. Like you can have a
Yeah.
million passions. And actually, if you look at them, like you were saying earlier, you find that they're also cohesive. They go together so well and they complement one another. So it's important for people to focus on their passions. And if they have the opportunity to study their passions as well, kind of have a more professional outlook on the things that they love. So I think that's also pretty exciting. So
Yeah,
lastly,
that's
Monga,
definitely.
before I love and leave you, I wanted to discuss basically advice. I know earlier on you had said you create music that you yourself, as a younger person, would have wanted to listen to. What advice could you give? First of all, maybe I would say your former self, and then I'll give you the second part of the question. But for now, what advice would you give the younger Monga, the 15-year-old who was starting this journey of vulnerability and had absolutely no idea that it would blow up the way it could, the way that it has now? To become, musical and connect with so many different people and influence so many lives. What advice would you give that young Monga?
I would tell them not to be afraid. Not to be afraid of being able to, get rejected, and taking that with a grain of salt, um, and also just try to just accept things as they are, because
Right.
sometimes things aren't in your power, and sometimes you can make them happen, and you just have to accept that you just have to work hard for what you want, and sometimes it may not be enough, but it doesn't mean it makes you any less important than what you really are. I think I should have thought like that when I was younger, but I think like that now. So at the end of the day, it's never too late.
Totally. And then last Hi guys, sorry I had a bit of an internet failure, but we're about to wrap up with Manga K. I'm just gonna wait for him. Hey Manga!
Hey, what's up?
You hear me now? I'm
Yeah,
so sorry
sorry,
about that.
quite a bit.
Basically, what I was saying was I wanted to find out now advice that you would give a creative that's kind of seeking to get into a lot more collaborations. Because I know for me, it's collaborating with other people is still something I'm trying to, because I'm very picky with energy. But
Yeah,
in
could be.
cases where, I mean, it is necessary, and I feel like there's so many lessons I'm robbing of myself by not working with many people or with people in general. So what advice would you give maybe a someone who's seeking to do more collaborations? In what advice could you give them to kind of like who wants to take on that journey but do it in a way that protects who they are and kind of, they keep their sense of self intact?
Yeah. So I mean, firstly, get out there. That's the number one thing that I would say is if you know that you feel in your heart that you want to go and work with other people, go and do it. Um, but a few things you obviously have to do is remember your worth. Remember, um, because I think the number one thing is not being able to be dicked around and people taking you for a fool. If it doesn't
Right,
matter how new you are to the game, how fresh you are, how just don't let people take advantage of you because it's so easy to get into that space and then to feel inferior. So always remember that if you know you're talented and you deserve a lot of respect with that. And secondly, remember with remembering your worth, if you feel that the energy that you're getting into is not productive, trust yourself. Trust yourself.
right,
You may trust yourself a few times and then it shows it shows you that like you were wrong and that's fine, but there will be moments where I guess in a spiritual sense maybe God or your conscience or whatever you believe in is trying to tell you that whatever you're getting into is not going to be good for you. Trust that voice, trust that
right,
message because in the long run it might help you. um, and then also just remember to have fun. That's the number one thing. If, like I said earlier, if everybody in the space that you're in is having a good time, let it happen. Sometimes you just have to let
true,
moments be what they are, um, because it's so easy to try and force things to happen and try to force the ideas that you have in your head. And sometimes, like I said, compromise is good. You learn the hard way. I learned the hard way. I still learn the hard way with ideas that I get
right,
into. But it's really in the long run when you look back in retrospect, it benefits you and it benefits your growth. So always
right,
remember that growth is never ending and it's something that you need to pursue in all aspects of creativity. And it
right,
honestly can't be achieved alone. Sometimes you need people to teach you some harsh lessons and people to teach you some good lessons. So that's my
mhm.
2 cents on that.
Right, right, right. Thank you so much, Monga, for spending time to kind of explore how you do things and really just the heart behind what you do. I'm so inspired. I'm sure so many people are. I'm getting a lot of love. I'm seeing people reacting with a bunch of hearts. So yeah, thank you so
Amazing.
much for joining us. To everyone that took the time out to come spend time speaking about manga, thank you for coming and showing love in the comment section and really just joining the live and spending time with us. Mongo, do you have anything coming up that we should be looking out for? Any events, any performances we should be
So
looking
firstly, thank
towards?
you so much, Tuella, for having me. Everyone should just know she's amazing and she's talented and she's a wonderful young black lady that is going to kill the game as she already has and already is doing. So I'm very continuously proud of you for what you're doing and this platform that you're creating for, spaces for creative people to just talk about their experiences. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, I've got one more show, a New Year's show in Drakensberg, and next year's gonna be, I mean, we're gonna slowly give in the plans, but 2019 is going to be a very explosive year from the get-go. We've got a lot of new music coming out, new music I'm very excited about, new
Oh,
partnerships
wow.
ready to explore, and ready to discuss very soon. So just keep
Wow.
streaming the music all platforms. Really appreciate the fact that people listen to the music that we put out. And just if you like the music and you ever want to talk about anything, let's meet up, let's discuss on the internet things, let's just connect. I think that's the number one thing. But I'm so looking forward to next year. I graduate finally, and I'm just
Oh,
ready to.
hey. So much fun. That's so exciting. So 2019 will clearly be another year of exponential growth and just really taking
Exactly.
such big leaps career-wise and, education-wise, concluding what a long journey it's been. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited to see kind of everything that is you're about to become. Just when you think, oh, Monga's reached the peak, something happens and you're like, oh crap, I should have never thought. I'm so, so, so happy. I'm genuinely like, I root for you. Every single post I see, I take like at least 2 seconds just praising you, and then I continue going through my feed. I'm so excited. I'm so proud of you. I can't wait to see everything that you'll be becoming. We will stay glued. We will be waiting on those shows, waiting on what you're yet to put out. Man, I'm so excited for you. I really can't stress that enough. But thank you so much once again. And yes, I guess I'll have to love and
Thank
leave you
you so
here.
much.
Once
Appreciate it.
again, thank you so much, guys. Thank you for watching. This Instagram live video will be put up on my YouTube soon, 2, 3 days from now, and inevitably on my website. But if you want to watch it, you could just string along, and in a couple minutes, will be live on. It will be up on my Instagram profile. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Bye bye.
So much,
Cheers.
Chris. Thanks to Ella.
All right, cheers.
Bye.